In this video, I'm going to cover the creation of SQL Azure databases out of the Azure Platform as a Service components from Azure. So again, I'm not talking anymore about using SQL virtual machines, but natively deploying SQL databases in Azure. The video is split up in 3 different sections. In the first one, I'm going to highlight some differences between running SQL Server VMs and running Azure SQL Server databases, followed by walking you through the deployment of a SQL database solution, and then ending this video explaining the difference between the different Azure SQL database tiers that we have available. Now, it's quite important to really have a good understanding of the differences between running SQL Server VMs and using the native SQL Azure databases. An Azure SQL database service provides you database as a service-like scenarios, or DBaaS. From a SQL perspective, it's the exact same experience than if you're running SQL Server on premises. It allows you to deploy performant databases, small ones, big ones, enterprise-sized ones, configuring scalability performance, providing high availability, business continuity, giving you backup restore options directly from the portal or using Azure APIs, or even using PowerShell, and basically requiring zero administration on the underlying platform. So we're really focusing on the database level here and not having to worry about the underlying SQL Server platform. Now, this all sounds great, and it's really interesting to use. But there are also some aspects you have to watch out for. First of all, Azure SQL always run the latest version of SQL Server Engine. So imagine if you're running an application that's still using SQL Server 2005, for example. When you're migrating the database to a SQL Azure format, it will be translated to a SQL 2016, 2012, 2014 edition, depending on the version you're selecting in Azure. Next point is that not all collations out of SQL are supported, and it's not valid for all SQL Server database migrations, where again, supportability is the most important aspect. So this was a first quick introduction to SQL VMs, mapping it with SQL database services, which brings me to the next topic, how to deploy an Azure SQL database. I can already tell you that the deployment is not really difficult. It starts from selecting a unique SQL database name, selecting your subscription, selecting your Azure resource group, defining if you want to create a blank database or reusing one of the deployment sample templates or database samples, followed by some additional options if you want to use like SQL Elastic pooling, which is used for elasticity, flexibility, scaling up, scaling down, then selecting your SQL pricing tier and specifying your SQL collation, where Latin 1 General is the default. Next to that, specify if it's a new database that you want to deploy. You can create a new SQL server, and this all is possible from the portal, as well as using PowerShell, where the commandlet is new Azure SQL database. Now I'll show you in a demo later on how easy it actually is. Once you start creating your SQL database in Azure, one of the requirements is also to deploy a SQL server, where it's nothing different than entering a username, password, and providing a unique SQL server name. So again, we're using platform as a service. It doesn't mean you have to deploy your own SQL server. It's all running in background. And then obviously also specifying your SQL Azure location, defining whether you want to use the latest version or using the previous one. Again, doing this is pretty easy from the portal, as well as using PowerShell, where instead of using the new Azure database commandlet, this time you're going to use the new Azure SQL database server commandlet. Now, quite important, since it's an Azure SQL platform as a service, it also comes with different database tiers, where SQL database tiers today are split up in different versions. There's a basic one, a standard one, and a premium one, where the basic one is best suited for a database supporting one single active operation, using it for testing, development, maybe small scale or demo purposes, where standard and premium are more focused to the enterprise. Real corporate business features, standard one is recommended for most cloud applications supporting multiple concurrent queries. Typical use here could be web applications. And then lastly, the premium one is for high performance, high transaction volume, massive size databases, having several concurrent users connecting to the database backend, where you also want to leverage on the business continuity capabilities. Now, besides basic, standard, and premium, there is also a single and elastic database tier, where the single one really means providing a single instance of each database, and the elastic one points to an elastic database transaction unit, or a DTU, allowing you to scale up, scale down, based on the performance impact or the number of requests entering your database. So quite a lot of interesting possibilities and features available here, and each tier comes with a different cost. So with that, I want to move over to another demo, showing you first of all how easy it is to create a SQL Azure database out of the Azure portal.
So from the Azure portal, I could search, but I can show you the full way, going to databases and selecting SQL database as an option. Where I'm asked for a database name, let's create a new resource group based on a sample database. Notice I can also perform a backup from, for example, an on-prem, an easy way to migrate your database to Azure. I can select a sample database, and next to that I also have to create an underlying SQL server. Obviously providing a unique name. And password, providing my location, opting in for the latest version, confirming the creation. And then from the database perspective again, if I want to use the SQL Elastic pooling or not, I'm not going to use it for now. And quickly showing you the pricing tiers, where I have the different premium options, the standard one and the basic one. Where again the main difference is performance, if it allows me multiple point in time restores and backups, supporting geo-replication or not. Where the basic one that I'm going to use for this demo is pretty limited. Selecting it, creating it, and that's basically all it takes to create a SQL database from the platform as a service, and at the same time creating a SQL server, which again doesn't allow me any management from the server perspective since I'm using platform as a service. This completes my demo on deploying a SQL Azure database, and I hope to see you again in the next video, where I'm going to talk about managing your SQL server and databases